Also, I want you to give the same warm welcome to First Lady Gwen Walz, right here, too. All right, I guess I get to talk first.
Wow. This is amazing.
It is. You want to say something first before we get started?
Yeah, you care. I'll just hear a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow. Hello, neighbors. So good to see you. Have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat in this beautiful space. My God. Thank you. Thank you to Roosevelt, the principals, the staff that works here, the students for in this beautiful space. I was mentioning this reminds me of a very historic high school in Minnesota. Looks almost like this up in Hibbing that the world got to see because that's where Bob Dylan went to high school. So, and I saw this was Cloris Leachman's stage that we're on. So amazing. Iowa, you've got the best party chair and just quite honestly, the best neighbor you could find in Rita. So thank you. Incredible. All right, it's 80 degrees in March. It's Friday at the end of the workday, and here you sit. It speaks volumes to what this country and this state means to folks in Iowa, because this is what's required of us in the democracy. You came here, as I always say, when you gather like this, there's other things you could be doing. You come here because you're like, well, damn it, I got to go there because they're not doing their damn job, so I'm going to go do it. That's what you do. But it's a labor of love. It's a labor of love because you love this country. And also said you understand a town hall is not a performative event. It's an expression of the people's right to petition their government. It's also about free speech, to be able to stand up and speak of what you're doing. Now, there's a lot of folks say, I love freedom, I love freedom, I love freedom. Well, we do too. But I would argue the folks in this room, when we say we love freedom, that means freedom for everybody. It means freedom for everybody. You don't get to slice off some people and they don't count. Because if you do slice off people from that I love freedom, you don't really love freedom. What you love is privilege. And that's a different thing. That's a different thing. And so look, I heard Rita talking about the State House, by the way. My God, last year I got a chance to tour the Iowa State Capitol and that law library that's up there. Oh my God, it's beautiful. But the part that shook me the most is I got to see the governor's office. It's huge. It's way too big for the small ideas that are coming out of it. Way too big. Lord. Now look, if we'd have won an election last fall, we wouldn't be in this mess. So I'm here to listen too, because I'm not assuming that it's all Democrats in here, because I was out on a farm last week and it sure the hell wasn't all Democrats. But it was people that were really irritated about the tariffs and the trade war with our neighbors. And there's a responsibility in this time of chaos where elected officials need to hear what people are irritated about. And I would argue that Democratic officials should hear the primal scream that's coming from America is do something, damn it, this is wrong. This is wrong. And independence. And there's nothing conservative about an unelected South African Nepo baby firing people at the VA. And for our Republican neighbors now, all of a sudden, they're like, I wanted my 401k to go down. I wanted this, This idea that you would be okay. Can you imagine if President Barack Obama had brought his unelected African friend to cut? You know what I mean? How they think to cut the government. This is wrong. And your member of Congress is there to be your voice, is there to push back. So we're not here, and I'm not here to criticize and to personally attack Representative Nunn. I congratulate him on his service, unlike the other side who finds a need to criticize everybody and attack and do all that. That's not what we're here for, but you were hired to do a job. And that's the questions that we want to ask. You need to answer the questions about the things you did. Why is it okay for President Musk to do what he's doing? Why is that okay? Why Why are we fighting a trade war with Canada that Donald Trump negotiated the deals on and now doesn't want it? Why is that? And why do billionaires get to tell us you're going to have to endure a little bit of pain? Well, we wouldn't if you'd pay your taxes. We wouldn't have to. We wouldn't have to. And so I would say to you, Rita and I are going to take questions and hear from you, and I don't think it's going to be that different than I'm hearing from my constituents about trade wars, about Medicare and all that. But this is what your representative needs to be here for. Because if they were proud of what they did, it's very hard to find an elected official who doesn't want to be in front of a crowd or a camera. When they don't want to be, you know something's up. And the something that up is, even people who voted for this didn't vote for what they're getting. They didn't vote for the crap. Because if they did, and like I said it, I know Iowa, we're pretty similar. We share Norman Borlaug. This is like a family reunion when Minnesotans come to Iowa. And, you know, we talk our smack. You play football better than I wish you did, those types of things. But there's traditions, and I got to share one with you. I got a chance in 2019 when our Gophers were undefeated for the first time in 100 years, you know, to go to Kinnick Stadium. And I got to stand there, though, after the first quarter and wave and do the wave. So my question to your representative is, why did you vote to cut cancer research for children and then go and wave at the people who are there? Why? Why? So to each of you, we've got work to do. We've got work to do to figure this out. I also believe that empathy, compassion, and decency can win the day. But my wife, who is a 29-year public school teacher and administrator, I always recall her two sayings when she would send our kids out the door to go to school. Good friends and good learners every day. Sometimes they were neither, but sometimes they were both. True, one or the other. But she also said, don't ever mistake our kindness for weakness, because we stand up for those without a voice. So Iowa, thanks for having me. Again, I'm here to bring the megaphone I have to you so you can lift it up and hopefully he can hear what you're talking about. And I also recognize I don't have all the answers. If I did, we wouldn't be in this goddamn mess. We would have won in November, but we didn't. So now we get the opportunity that Americans get in every generation to renew the democracy and renew the republic. We get the opportunity to move us forward. We get the opportunity to push back against those forces who want to take those things that make America great. Because I'll be goddamned if we should ever again see a vote at the United Nations when it's North Korea, Russia, and the United States standing inside. So with that, let's go.
Okay, Governor, we're going to jump right in because, you know, you had a lot to talk about right there. And so here we go.
I was in Congress, too, by the way, for 12 years, and I did town halls, just so we know.
Okay, all right. Okay. So
I would never go back there again. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, so just to be clear, though, you have not been given any of these questions, have you?
I have not.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that
Is
this
that a
time
thing?
it's all
I wish
in.
they would.
No, yeah. So our first question is going to come from a gentleman by the name of Patrick Kearns. Patrick, can you make yourself known?
Where's Patrick?
Here? There, right there. Can we get him, that gentleman, a microphone, please? Here it comes. Thanks, Patrick.
My name is Pat Kearns. I'm a registered nurse, and I've proudly worked at the Iowa City VA Medical Center.
Hey.
I spent 30 years of my career making sure that veterans get the care that they deserve and all the care that they deserve. The Secretary of Veterans Affairs says he wants to cut 83,000 jobs nationwide, 16% of our workforce. Looking at a facility like Iowa City, that's 300 jobs out of the 2,550 employees that work there. We cannot survive that. And I think that is the goal of the Secretary of Veterans Affairs and Elon Musk and the President, because then they can point to the system and say, look, it's hopelessly broke. And those forces that are out there that see that money and know that they can make a profit off of it, like United Healthcare, are waiting in the wings to say, oh, we'll take it all. And you can shut down the system wholesale. I guess I'd like you to discuss how important events like this are, where people speak out publicly to try to get our representative, for instance, is Marionette Miller Meeks, who is also strangely absent from the town halls that we've been holding in Iowa City and Davenport, and we'll be holding 4 more in the next week, that there's nothing. It's radio silence.
All right, first of all, thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, first, this is my point. If you went back to those 77 million people who voted for Donald Trump and you asked them, do you want to cut care for veterans in this country? I would guess a large percentage of them would say, no, we don't want you to. So this is a case, again, of they didn't vote for this stuff, but they're getting it. Now, in full disclosure on this, 2 things. This is not that unusual for Republicans run on telling you government doesn't work, and they get elected to prove it. That is what they're trying to do. And this one is personal for me, personal as being a veteran, but I served as the ranking member on the House Veterans Affairs Committee. And I know that, Patrick, this is not conspiracy. There's plenty of it out there. The goal is to privatize the VA, to send that money elsewhere, to get it out there. They continue to talk about this. Now, look, it sounds really good. You've got a veteran in Spirit Lake that doesn't want to have to drive over to Sioux Falls or up to Minneapolis. Can they just go on the local economy and get it done there? Much like school vouchers, if you do that, you gut the core VA. And the core VA is the only place doing research on prosthetics, doing research on traumatic brain injury, things like that. And you start to undermine the care veterans are getting. Now, I think this is something we don't do a good enough job of saying. People will support the veterans, but if you ask them about the VA, they don't connect that a large number of those 80,000 are veterans themselves, but they also don't connect this part. The VA is the best healthcare system in the country. That's not fake. And here's the thing. The VA trains over 80% of the physicians that serve in this country. The VA's research arm, the VA's ability goes far beyond. Their top priority is care for veterans. But they do all of the peripheral things. They have the biggest impact on healthcare in this country of any other system. That's not me saying the VA is better. That's the folks at the Mayo Clinic saying the VA is the best hospital. So this is real. Do you know that great organizations aren't like buildings? They're the people that work there. And they're telling you, these 80,000, well, they're not doctors. No, I just heard from someone who said this. They canceled a contract that does the inspection on the radiological department, which means if you can't get someone in to inspect that, they can't use their MRIs then, and they'll set silent. They're gutting and destroying. This isn't them running the government out of gas, because if that were true, we'd win an election, we'd pour gas in it, and we'd chug on down. This is them running the government out of oil, like running your car out of oil. They're breaking the systems. And what I would say to Patrick is, the VA is one of our strongest pushbacks to this, because I guarantee you find me a member of Congress who sits at a town hall and would answer that question and say, well, Patrick, those people just aren't working very hard, and besides, we don't care if veterans get care or not. They'll never say that. You can't find a politician who won't stand in front of a veteran. They won't stand behind them, though. And this is an issue of, do you stand with veterans? If you do, you should not have voted yes like your representative did to cut the VA. That's that simple.
It just doesn't sound too efficient to me. Am I wrong? This isn't very efficient. So anyway, here we go. Next question. Sheriff, sorry, I just had to ask that question.
Imagine Donald Trump not being good at business. Just imagine that. I'm so surprised.
Okay, our next question is from Cheryl Hayes. Cheryl, where are you? Right here. There we go.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi. I do a lot of work in the community quietly, but my biggest joy are my adult children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. My grandson will be 29 years old next month. He has spent more time in the hospital than he spent outside the hospital. He has no social life because he's never had a friend. He's been on Social Security and Medicaid since he was 3 years old. They're getting ready to try to cut those services. With the work that I do in the community, I meet a lot of people, a lot of kids, because I'm in the middle schools and elementaries, that are on Medicaid. I am so frustrated. I know a lot of people are so frustrated that we see all this stuff on the news. We see it, and we're wondering, what the heck can we do to make a difference? Because it's like they're running rampant over everything, and nobody on the other side seems to care at all. So what can we do?
Yeah. Well, thank you for trusting us with your story. I think this is the one thing you can do is come and we can stand with courage in front of our neighbors to say we're all in this together, because we all know each one of us, by the grace of God, goes each and every one of us. I think about this with Social Security for my family. My dad dies, my mom, we don't have any money. My little brother's in elementary school. It was Social Security survivor benefits, kept that family up. And I don't think we've done a good enough job. Again, I say us as elected officials. The Republicans have that narrative, this rugged individualism of the American frontier. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Fine, we had no boots, though. We have no boots. Give us the boot.
Yeah.
The boots are Social Security, and we'll do it. And all of us know that if your son is healthier, if your son is living the best life possible, that enhances our whole community. Now, I don't know, and again, I'm trying to figure it out from all of you. How did that message not resonate when we said they're not going to support Social Security, that they're going to cut it? You can't cut $1 trillion unless you do what Elon Musk finally admitted last week. We have to go after the entitlements. And by the way, we have to start using our language better. Those are not entitlements. We paid into them. That's our money, not entitlement. By the way, he's received more in government funding than he saved so far in 7 weeks cutting from things, because those are entitlements. That's right. So I'm trying to figure this out, how we have to educate Americans, because I still have this happen to me is, well, I love Medicare. We just need to get the government out of it. And that disconnect leads people to think that it doesn't matter when they go and vote. And so this is just me. And I heard somebody, thank you for not, I think Patrick mentioned United Healthcare. Thanks for not making me own that, being Minnesotan, you know. But this issue around healthcare and the issue around Medicare and the things we're talking about, we've got people now that are exactly like this story, worried about basic human right of healthcare and decency in their life. And I own this. The idea that millions of people stayed home because they didn't think there was any difference between Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, and myself on the ticket, they didn't think that. And we need to acknowledge that. I think one of the reasons is that when Democrats have been in power, we've been timid about passing things that make a difference on their lives. And why do we have citizens that are in this situation? Why are we at that point when we are the richest nation on earth, and yet our outcomes are 41st, and we spend twice as much as any nation next to us? We should demand a redo of this system in a way that makes a difference on that, because I think it's very hard that we have to win elections, but good politics follows good policy. And the ACA was an improvement, but let's be honest. The ACA is still a pain in the ass to get things paid, to get things done. It's important protection like pre-existing conditions, but it's still too expensive. And so what I would say to you is, we need to tell your son that we need a healthcare system that he doesn't have to worry that one election could throw him out and into the streets, that one election would make a difference.
Okay, Okay, our next question comes from Ellen Walsh-Rossman. Ellen? There she is. Somebody want to bring, there we go. Here comes the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor, for being here and being a true leader and showing us what it really means to listen. We really appreciate that. We don't have much of that here in this state. So I'm a farmer and a mom, a restaurant owner, a former food hub founder, and a former school nutrition director. So lots of hats.
When do you sleep?
When I'm dead. I believe food connects us all. It builds community, and we find common ground when we break bread together. As you know, ag and food policy is super complicated and can be very overwhelming to just normal Americans. But we have an opportunity to vote 3 times a day when we eat. We can vote with our fork. Supporting local and regional foods is one way to do that. And the LFS and LFPA program that was defunded on Monday was an example of how we can prop up regional food systems, especially in the state of Iowa. It has left, so just a little, LFS is Local Foods for School, and LFPA is Local Food Purchasing Agreement, which was getting local foods into food banks.
Fantastic programs, creating markets, getting kids healthy foods, having them learn culturally what's being grown, and Donald Trump cut that and took the $1 billion.
Yes, absolutely, and it had been working very well, especially in the state of Iowa. Yeah. We were promised that funding would be coming last fall, so now we are left scrambling. Locker dates were made, routes were built, seeds were bought, but now we don't have those markets. When I told my 8-year-old daughter that they would no longer be serving Country View yogurt at her small rural school, she was devastated and decided she wanted to get all of her friends to write letters to Secretary Rollins to tell them how much local food meant to him. So we know that those programs work. For $1 of those programs, $4 was going back into our local economy, which a lot of government programs don't have that sort of ROI, right? So my question for you is twofold. I would love to hear about the state policies that you are doing in the state of Minnesota. We have some here in Iowa, but they're not as robust. And they're a simple line item. We would like our governor to match the $3 million that was promised to us. And my second question for you is I would like to know what your response is to local schools, food banks, food hubs, as well as farmers in Minnesota after the news on Monday. Thank you so much.
Yeah. This is all so unnecessary, and I don't think any of us should lose. This is all to ensure at the end of the day that they can craft a tax bill that gives tax cuts to the folks that have the most money. That's not me just saying. That's not a talking point. That's what it is. And these programs were working. Look, in Minnesota, even if you don't have a conscience or morality about a child eating, we know that the outcomes of a child or a family that is food secure are so much better. And over the lifetime of that child, you will save so much money, even if it's not about the improvement. And so in Minnesota, we passed a law, and I signed and advocate for it. Every child in Minnesota gets free breakfast and free lunch, no questions asked. And it's, look, guess what happened to our absentee rates? They went down. Student achievement starts to go up.
And if I could interrupt, did it take away a little bit of stigma for a lot of
Of course,
kids?
that's the idea of having a different colored lunch ticket, whatever. Kids can be kids. We produce so much food that those are things that we can do. So in Minnesota, we did that. We also put money into to more money for folks could learn meat processing at a local level so that we wouldn't be dependent on the large. Look, Iowa and Minnesota, we've got Hormel, we've got JBS, but there's room for others doing it a different way, making sure that local grown foods, local folks have that, and that there's a profession for folks to be into it. We made beginning farmer and rancher grants available so that folks could get on and get the capital to get on land, to get a new generation on the land, to make that connection. Now, here's the question I would ask of you, because I also said on the Ag Committee, you know that the big fight in the Farm Bill is SNAP programs. And I'm just going to name this because I'd like somebody you to tell me this because I was pretty horrified. The Biden administration made supplemental SNAP for summer because when we leave school, when children leave school on Friday afternoons or leave school in June for summer, that's when the hunger comes in because they're not getting the free breakfast and lunch. They're not getting those things. So they made it available that in the summers we could add that program. The governor of Iowa didn't take that money because she said your children are obese. Why? And I say this strictly, again, let's remove the morality of feeding kids, and we know it works. Remove the very good data point on this was the money is going back into the local community faster and at a better rate when you give this. When you give a tax credit on carried interest to a billionaire, that just sets somewhere. When you give a hungry family $1 or something, that goes back into the economy. I feel back in school. That means hurry up. And what I don't understand, I ask you, Iowa, I ask Republican farmers this. Who do you think we buy the SNAP food from? And who gets the money? Donald Trump doesn't understand this. Where is all of that food that's being grown that we're not going to buy through these programs? Where's it going to go? Because we can't trade with Canada anymore, can't trade with Mexico. And so the farm community in this, we have to make the case to them that these nutrition programs are programs that make a difference in people's lives. And we know the whole thing. Just so you all know this here, the average SNAP recipient is a white woman over the age of 65. You know what they say about SNAP, and you know where this starts to get into trying to demonize and divide us. We again have to make the case of what we can do. We as states need to lift up these policies. We used a lot of our COVID money to put into food banks, and I had the last $5 million of that right before it had to be used by the time Donald Trump came in, because of course we can't feed people. We gave it to Second Harvest Heartland, and that was $5 million that went into the food banks to start to feed. So I don't know the answer, how the people who produce the food don't recognize that it's good to sell that food, and that the closer it is to home, the money stays closer to home and improves all of our economies. Because when a farmer sells that and makes money, they take that money and go into town and buy furniture at the local furniture store. They buy those things that fuel our local economies. Consolidation and getting bigger kills our small communities, and that's what these guys have done. So don't ask me how we lose the farmer vote. This breaks my heart. My damn family members who are farmers, aren't voting that way, and we got to figure out why. Because that $1 billion is absolutely catastrophic of what we're going to lose. It was such a great program.
Great. So here we are at the beautiful Roosevelt High School, and we have a number of teachers and educators here. Would you, yeah.
Can I get them to stand up?
Yeah, stand up.
Who has taught or is teaching?
Stand up.
Yeah.
Can I stand up? You should stand up.
I'm standing up. Quinn.
I'm standing up.
Tell the First Lady. You got to stand up. All right.
Okay, they're standing up, and we have to stand up for teachers. There's no doubt about that. So our next question comes from Emma Bade Siebert. There we go, Emma. Who's got the mic for her?
Here they come.
Okay.
We're not going to see a tornado today, are we?
I don't think so.
It's looking scary. It's 80 degrees.
Yeah. It's going
Just talking about the weather, Emma. That's what we do.
It's going south of us.
Going south, Rita said. All right.
Yes.
All right, hello, my name is Emma Seibert, and I am a special education teacher.
Oh, nice.
Yay.
Yeah, extra.
My district gets almost $15 million specifically to serve our students with disabilities and our low-income families. My question for you is, where is that money going to come from to ensure that we have equitable access for education that all of our students deserve?
Yeah, well, yes. I'm going to say two things. Somebody mentioned, and they knew their name, of the Ag Secretary, Secretary Rollins. I'd never heard of her. First interview, I saw her down playing H5N1 and told us all to grow chickens in our backyard, which I don't think is a bad idea, but that's not going to fix the whole problem. Our Secretary of Education is a fake wrestling promoter that in her first interview she gave, she talked about she fired half the people, 1,300, only the bad ones. Now, mind you, she'd only been on the job 48 hours. And in the entire press conference, there was one word she never said. She never said children the whole time, because they don't give a damn. Now, this question is one that we in America decided that all of our children deserve a chance. And we passed laws like IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act. The secretary did not know what that was. Did not know what that was. And those of you in here who have taught or who have a child in school, that's the IEP that makes sure we make up for all those differences. And for Gwen and I, this is very personal. The country got to see our son Gus, who's a wonderful kid. He's a wonderful kid. It's through those programs and that extra funding that has brought Gus along, and God be with us is going to graduate this spring. So Gwen said last semester that she got a B in geometry. So good work, Gwen, for working that one there. So, but look, we all do it. Parents working with our teachers, working with the experts. It's the law, and it's the money that goes into it that the federal government. Now, the federal government promised us 40% of those costs. They've never gotten above 20%, so the states try and make up for it. Now what they've done is they've decimated that group that ensures that. And basically what they're telling us is, and the law says we have to do this, but they're no longer there to enforce it. The civil rights part of the education department is gone. So that they're basically just telling us, well, let's just warehouse some of these kids and let's just get them jobs where we can, where it is. Rather than using the expertise, using the pedagogy that we know brings these child to the best that they can possibly be to lift them up. And as we know is, again, even if you have no morality about caring about that child, it's better that they get a good education and they contribute into the economy, and you have less services down the road. All of those things make a difference. They have no plan for this. And I think we need to quit. I don't want to hear this. Do I think these guys are, again, carrying out exactly what their Project 2025 said? Yes. That's exactly what they were doing. That's exactly what they're doing. But also don't give them credit for being some type of genius, even an evil genius. This is just some dude making crap up as they go. And they're going to go after Medicare, they're going to go after Medicaid, they're going to go after Social Security, and they're going to go after education for the same reason that people rob a bank. That's where the money is. So they're going after it to rob the bank that are our most vulnerable, our seniors and our children. The problem with this is even states that care deeply about education and put the money into it make it very hard to backfill. So I think our mission now is to explain to the public exactly what that's going to mean. And here's what I fear. I fear dynamic teachers in the heart of their careers doing the work. It's hard enough to stay in that business as it is. It's going to be very hard now if the resources are not there to deliver it, if the expectations have changed, and that we're basically just saying, I'm not sure if we should be investing in these kids, because that's what they're saying. So this isn't about Doge or efficiencies. Every budget is a fiscal document, but it's equally a moral document. And there is no morality in this budget and the cuts they're doing. They are cutting the most vulnerable. They are cutting those that least can afford it. And we're going to be left picking up those pieces. So I wish that's not true. I am the pocket. I am the pocket. Because a teacher's union is your kid's favorite teacher. It's the ability to make sure that we're giving the best possible education. And they are putting this under there, under the cutting block. And again, I got to be honest with you. They hate public education. I think they hate it for the reason we all know in here. It's easier to run an authoritarian government if you don't have a population that knows. So again, obviously I don't have all the answers, but I think it's appealing to people's sense of decency. Again, I should be careful about that. I thought a message that we should value all people and we should have an immigration policy that adheres to the law but adheres to humanity. And they talked about eating dogs and cats, and they won. And so I myself am soul searching when I hear this. How in God's name, of all the money that's being spent and all the tax cuts they're giving, we can't fund those interventions that we know make a difference in millions of children's lives? I can't believe America wouldn't go for that.
And I'll just throw in there that, here in the state of Iowa, we had elected politicians, elected representatives who started a session out by calling out the teachers who work so hard every day and who are so many times the fail-safe for so many kids across this state, and said that they had a sinister agenda. And that just is so galling when we see people like this who come to this event and are begging to improve the system, that are called and say that they have a sinister agenda. That's really hard.
Yesterday, the day before, we went to Hayes Elementary and we read a wonderful book. Elementary teachers in here, Don't Eat Your Classmates. You know that one? It's wonderful. Penelope Rex or whatever. And we were there and they were so engaged, and the teachers were there, and we were there to talk about why the cuts were so bad. But I turned to Gwen and I said, can you imagine Don sitting here trying to read a book to these kids? Seriously. And I think there's something to be said about that we are like defer or something, that these people can't do anything and they don't know, but they've mastered of demonizing this. When did it become fashionable to demonize teachers or nurses or I don't get
veteran workers
or veterans? So yeah, no, Rita's point is well taken, but again, I'm here to listen to you and hearing some of these things. I do think the stories matter. I believe that storytelling matters. I believe getting it out there. And I believe, again, they don't want to have these town halls because these stories are going to come up because this is really happening. And then it's something to stand, and I've had it happen with me, standing in front of me, and people are yelling at you why you're doing this or whatever, and you have to hear it and answer, and it's very telling. Because if you're saying these things, you're going to have to respond why. Well, it's because I don't think you work for it. Good luck saying that. Good luck saying that. And again, I mentioned this. They cut half the VA. Has your member of Congress cut half his staff? Just wondering. I don't want them to get fired because I believe they're probably doing it. But this whole idea, has Elon Musk cut his staff? Have they done? We just need to make this a better case for public. I don't believe the 77 million people, the big bulk of them, or the 70 million that stayed home, want you to lose your funding so that you can deliver for kids who need it. I don't believe they want that. So tell the story.
Yep.
Thank you for being here.
Tell the stories, yep. So our next question comes from a senior here at Roosevelt High School. Promise Bradford, would you please stand?
I thought you meant like me, a senior.
Promise.
I turned 60 last year. You can eat at Perkins and stuff. It's great. So, where's Thomas? Where's our senior? Oh, there we go. Over here. I got it.
Hello, Governor Walz. My name is Promise Barford, and as you know, I'm a current senior here at Roosevelt, and I'd first like to welcome you to my school and the surrounding community, and I can see that you're enjoying yourself. I'd like to thank you for hearing not only my concerns, but the concerns from many students around the United States about the future of the Department of Education. So I am aspiring to be a lawyer, and I am faced with the requirement to get a bachelor's degree from a university or college. So pursuing higher education is a must for me in my future. But like my peers, I am relying on federal aid to pay for partial of my college costs. So my question for you is, if President Trump's agenda to defund the Department of Education succeeds, am I still able to get a student loan or a Pell Grant to help me cover the cost of my college?
Yeah, thank you. We had this conversation this morning with our higher ed director, and this is really hard because as of today, the answer is no. And the answer is no is because the FAFSA system is shut down. And some of you know FAFSA parents in here, you had to do that. Let's just be honest. That thing was screwed up under Joe Biden too, just to be clear. We can admit it. Like, we're not in a cult. When our people stink, we tell them they stink. And that... So FAFSA was not it. That's the form you fill out for federal financial aid. That system is basically frozen right now. And I just think we need a conversation about what higher ed means. And for the gray hairs in here, and me included, I used GI Bill, but got Pell Grant. There are different ways to do that. A very effective message they had that picked at the middle class, especially people who didn't go to college, maybe, was, well, I'll be damned. You took out those student loans so you could party. I don't want to pay them back. And I even heard that from a lot of people who had college degrees. Let's just level set here. When I got out of high school, I could have worked a minimum wage job in the summer and paid an entire year's tuition at the University of Minnesota on that wage. You know why that was? They put the money in on the front end. We decided that we would stick it into loans, and then back in about 2014, when I was in Congress pulling my hair out, we privatized those and sent them to private banks so that they could raise the interest rates and keep you in a student loan debt for until you're in your 50s, which some of you here are dealing with. That is so short-sighted. It's unfair. It is unfair sticking them with that. It is stupid. It is stupid. If we want an attorney, we need to get that attorney trained. And so we have to figure out ways where it makes sense. And this is about convincing people that education matters, whether technical education or if you're going for, liberal arts education, which, by the way, I'm a big advocate of both. But after the COVID pandemic, I do think it should be a requirement to have a basic biology class, that you know how things work. I do. So...
All right, thanks, Tristan. 3, will stay safe. All right, yep, bye. Okay, just to, and I want to deal with that better. I should.